All right, welcome to How the Blank, presented by What the Blank Entertainment, and this is How the Dark Truth. It's crazy.
Intro music.
We just wanted to go over kind of what's been going on with Jackson's family and some of this stuff and backlash you've gotten since the new Netflix show, The Project, has come out.
It's called The Program.
Yeah, The Program.
Yeah, so there's been a show that came out in the last month and a half, something like that, and it's called The Program, Cons, Cults, and Kidnapping. And what this show is about these troubled teen facilities. And basically what these are for is for, teenagers and young adults who have issues growing up and getting out in the world. And a lot of times they have an option to go to jail or to go to one of these facilities. And a lot of times the parents will opt out to send them to the facilities because they don't have anywhere else to go.
And it doesn't go on their record or anything, and
not that I know of.
And it makes it so that
Yep.
they're transforming their kid into a perfect child.
Yep, that's the idea of these things. And when these programs started out, it was actually really good because the way they had them set up originally was they would send their kids there, and they would set it up in a way where these kids would go to these little programs within the schools. They would have a big school set up to where you'd go to classes, you'd get your schoolwork done, you'd go do some of these facilities actually had little on-site work projects that you could do, and they have workout centers and a whole bunch of other stuff that you can go do and enjoy. But what happened with these programs is later on, so I have a couple of family members who started a new program within these facilities. It's called WASP, WWASP. And basically what that stands for is Worldwide Association of... what's the SP, dude? I don't remember.
I don't remember
what it is, but we'll put a screenshot on there so you guys can read it. But basically, it's an association of these facilities that come together, and they use this program as kind of a way to help these kids. But a lot of these programs and facilities took it in a different way. Originally, that thing that my uncle set up, and these are actually my second uncle, so they're my granddad's brothers that set these up.
So great uncle.
Basically, yeah, basically great uncles is what they are. Yeah, and so they set these up back in the late '90s. I think it was '98 when they set this up, and they started out with one program or one facility, and they kind of just started spiraling into a bunch of other ones, and then they started owning all of the facilities around the world. Almost 80 or 90% of the facilities in the world are pretty much run by their program that they have.
And do you know how many facilities there were and how many countries it reached?
Oh, dude, I don't know the exact number. So many, dude. But they were in a lot of different countries. I know for a fact Costa Rica, Jamaica, Mexico. I believe there was one in either Sweden or Switzerland or something like that. And then America, 90% of the facilities in America were run by my uncles. But yeah, so the way these things would work is in the show, they try to portray it in, the way that those students went through it, which I get it. It was their experience, right? Is what happened to them. But with some of those other facilities, some of those facilities never actually had any bad issues, but some of those facilities did have really bad issues, because the way that they had it set up was where the program itself that they had for those facilities wasn't meant to just be for each individual facility to go by strict rules or whatever. Like those rules were also put in by those facilities themselves, which were not entirely owned by my uncles themselves. Like they weren't running the entire thing. So it was really just whoever was like the manager of that facility had specific rules set in place for the students and for the staff. And then they also had the program on top of it. So they had all these different things. And like in the show, they kind of explain like some of the things that they did. Like where they would, I mean, you guys watched it too. And so some of those things that they had, it was like these big group things that they would get together if, you know, they had to like go through some like addiction recovery thing or whatever it was, and they would take all these students into this big room and they would have this big group meeting thing, whether it's for like alcohol recovery or anger management or just therapy in general. And they would do these like these things which the students kind of talk about in like a cult type of thing.
Well, it was very mantra-y, and
Yeah.
so the thing is, I can see where that is, because how they went about it, they didn't do a regular addiction recovery thing, because
Yep.
a lot of the time with addiction recovery, it's giving it up, while with this was facing it and destroying it,
Yep.
which can hurt someone on a mental and physical level, and it kind of corrupts their brain because they have to do it over and over again.
Yep.
And that's why they said it in that way, because they had to do it right and perfect, because that's how the facility did it, because that's where it came from.
Yep.
And it was supposed to be harmful to the brain to get the brain to change.
Yeah.
And we found out now that that doesn't really work. But in the 90s and
what
in
I
the
thought.
2000s, when it started, they thought, oh, tough love is good love. Right. And sometimes tough love is good, but not all the time,
Yep.
or in a mental way that you beat yourself up. And
Yep.
I think that's really where they're going at, because they, in the actual show, they go off of just straight facts. They do.
Yeah.
Right. They don't say anything that is not a fact. And so these things are actually happening, but it's because of the facility managers and your great uncles let that happen, and that's the bad part.
Yep. And
right.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it spiraled out of control. Was these facilities ended up having issues with a lot of abuse, sexual abuse, and just all sorts of things just kind of started spiraling out of control with these different facilities. And it was like impossible to control it with just my two uncles in charge of it. Like just them being the guys on the top of it, pretty much. Like there was not much they could do on their own, right? And so that's why they had like all the managers in place to make sure that stuff doesn't happen. But what ended up happening was these managers just either didn't care really, or they wanted to make their own power rules and they wanted to, you know, set their own things set up. And what ended up happening is like some of these programs ended up having kids dying or being severely abused and hurt and injured and psychologically abused even, and emotionally abused. And there was a lot of abuse that went on inside of these facilities just within each individual facility. Now, I know for a fact that some of these facilities never really had any big issues, but there for sure are stories of that happening. Like I believe it was in Minnesota or Michigan, where one of these facilities, a kid died from because he was throwing bread at some of the students, and the staff got like really crazy about it, and they pushed him to the ground, held him there, and basically just suffocated him on the ground.
Oh, so actually what that was is he was looking at the other students wrong, and they were
that was
freaking
it?
out.
Okay.
And so the staff just like took it too far.
Okay.
It was kind of just high tense, where it's like they had to be intense with the students.
Yeah.
Right, because it was in the show, and
Yeah.
they just showed how he didn't really do anything except for
Yeah.
just move his plate and move
Okay,
his
that's
stuff.
what he did.
And because their rules are so strict, so they believe that strictness brings change.
Yep.
Right? And you have to set a bunch of rules to change your life. And yes, but if you're setting the rules, I don't think, because I think
That just sounds
self-control.
like police brutality on a teacher-student level.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of was like that at a
Yeah.
point. Yeah, it
Well,
did turn into that.
And my dad actually worked at one of these facilities.
Oh, yeah?
That was not owned by WASP, but he used to work for WASP with your uncle Rob, your great uncle.
Yeah.
And he didn't like kind of how it was run, and so he went and made another one down in Roosevelt. It's the one in Roosevelt that's still going to this day.
Yeah.
And my dad did it, and their main thing was just working on yourself through labor,
Oh,
right?
interesting.
And so they would build projects,
Yeah.
and like, so they'd build boats, they'd build barns, they built everything. And my dad liked it, but it just definitely wasn't for him because he felt like it was very controlling still. I feel like, yeah, a lot of these teenage drug and like behavioral thing are very too strict, but they do that so that they can overcome the rebellion. And I wish there definitely is a better way, but no one has really done it in one of those programs.
Yeah, no one's been able to change those programs in a way that actually makes it make sense to those kids yet. And I used to work at one of these programs back in 2019, like the end of 2019 to like mid 2020. And I worked at not like one of the programs owned by WASP. This was actually one that was owned by Tyler, who is my second cousin, who's my dad's cousin. And so I worked for him on his program in Tokerville, Utah. It's called Shangri-La, and it was like a brand new startup program, and this was for young adults, for like 18 to like 27. So this wasn't teenagers, this wasn't kids who had problems. This was just for like the young adults who had a hard time getting out of their house and living an adult life, pretty much. Like what I had to do, because I was one of the counselors or mentors, is what I was called. My job basically consisted of so these students would have a set schedule, and my job would basically be wake them up in the morning if they're not waking up, and then drive them to like the little schoolhouse that they had, which is just kind of a little library. And then after that, we would go to the work center, which is like, because the entire idea is to show them how to be an adult. Like you wake up in the morning, if you have school or studies that you have to do, you do that. And then you go to work, right? And then you do your workouts, and then you make dinner or lunch or breakfast, whatever you're doing throughout the day. It's basically just a big schedule set around being an adult. And I never had to lay my hands on any of the students. They were actually really well-behaved guys. And this was a boys-only program at first, which was great. Never had to deal with any issues with the girls or the guys at first, which was awesome. But really, like, I've only had an issue like one time with some of the students, but it was just because a stupid fight broke out between two of the students over some kid throwing a duct tape ball at some other kid's nuts. And so, yeah, they broke out and started fist fighting. And so I had to run in and stop it, but I never had to throw hands with anyone. I never had to like lay hands on anybody, never had to do anything physical to any of those students, which I was actually really happy about, because I've heard the stories. I've seen, the videos from it from way before in the past, and I never want to have to do that, but I never had to. And that was something that Tyler wanted to change with these programs too, is because he knew all the stories from his uncle. And he was like, yeah, I don't want to have to deal with any of that stuff. So he wanted to change the way that industry worked. And so that's why he wanted to start a young adult program. And it was working really well at first. I mean, those students were doing really well. They would get up in the morning, they would go to their studies. I would hardly have to do anything at all. Like, I would just have to kind of be there and just kind of make sure that they're just doing things properly.
You were a support system.
Basically, yeah. I was literally just support. That's it. And then they would have therapy throughout the day. And then, dude, it was so fun because, like, after they were done with their school and then breakfast and their work, and it was kind of cool because, like, during their work days, I would even join in and just work with them. Like, a lot of times we would do ranch work. And so we would go out on the ranch and we would do, like, we would either herd the sheep or the goats, or we would go watch cattle be like milked or whatever it was, or we'd go feed the goats, and just like a whole bunch of random stuff. Like we'd clean the ponds.
Because it was like a dude ranch type of feel, right?
It was kind of like that. Yeah, it was really fun. And they had ostriches on the property that we were able to take care of and like go chase around. That was a fun time.
That does not sound fun.
Yeah, it was really fun actually. But and so we had a bunch of fun stuff to do there, and we had golf carts that we could drive around, and the students were even learning how to drive cars because some of them didn't have their licenses yet. That's funny.
Licenses.
Yeah.
But you keep saying like it was all good at first. What happened?
So later on, before I left, they started changing the system a little bit. He ended up hiring some new manager to take over, and I know him really well. He's a great guy, but he came from another program that kind of had like the traditional.
They had the wasp mentality.
Yeah, kind of had that wasp mentality. And so he was changing things a little bit more to go back down to what the teenage facilities were run like. And they didn't go like full in, like wasp type of program, but it was just enough to where I was like, I don't want to deal with this. And I'm not the type of person that wants to like control anybody. Like, I'm not a controlling person. You guys know that. And I'm not a very confrontational person either. And so, like, when they started changing the programs, you look like you're trying to say something.
No, keep going.
Quit interrupting his story, Braxton.
No, no, but okay, with saying that, right? So do you think like at first that these programs were meant to do good, but because they chased the money, that's where it went bad, where they started cutting things, because
Yep.
that's what they were kind of saying. That's one of the episodes is all about, is
Yeah.
find the money.
Yep.
And
Follow
with
the money.
Narvin and Rob,
Yep.
right, they both just had these extreme lifestyles that they wanted to fulfill.
Yeah, and part of the story, back onto my uncles, is like my uncle Rob. He when he was growing up and he first started his own family, they weren't very wealthy. You know, they were like literally living paycheck to paycheck, like even barely then. And so
Just like us.
yeah, exactly, dude. And so he wanted to change everything kind of like in his family. He wanted to create generational wealth. And he also used to work for programs back in the 70s and 80s. And so he figured, well, I may as well start my own programs. And so that's when him and Narvin got together and started working up this program. And then they started selling it to the different facilities. And they started buying out their own facilities and then implementing their own programs there. But the problem with having just two guys in charge of all of it, you can't like see everything. And so when things go wrong, it's like how are you supposed to be able to like see that right then and there? You know, like I get that there's supposed to be communication processes in order and everything like that. I get it, but at the same time there was also issues with like making a lot of money as well. And I don't want to paint my family in a bad light because this isn't my whole family, right? This is just my two uncles that did this. And I only worked for a program that was like way different from what those other programs were,
And not connected to it at
wasn't,
all.
yeah, it wasn't even connected to the program. Like it was just my uncle's property that Tyler was taking over and turning into his own program. He wasn't even using the WASP system. It was totally like this was Tyler's completely set up own program that I actually thought it was really fun. I thought it was awesome. But you know, when things started changing, I left, and then years later this Netflix documentary comes out and they're talking about like all the stuff that happened in those programs, which I already kind of knew about. I've heard the stories and I've seen the videos and everything. And so I was like, oh crap, that's not good. And then we started getting, I started getting a message from some random people, like just a random dude on Messenger, basically just telling me that like I'm related to the worst person on the planet. And this guy's gonna like make it his life mission to destroy my family, pretty much. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird, but
Just a
you know,
little.
like it was kind of strange because like my wife and I, we stayed up all night watching this show one night, and we were watching the entire thing through, and we were like, holy crap, like this is about my family. Because at first when I saw the program, I was like, well, that sounds like a good like a good show. Clicked on it, and all of a sudden it starts talking about the programs and all the facilities, and then my uncles show up and my grandpa, everything. I'm like, holy crap, dude, what is going on? And then they keep going and going and going. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like there were some things in there I didn't even know was going on.
I didn't see your grandpa on it.
So his face wasn't shown, but his name was in there, and he used to write books a lot, and so his books are in there, and
Okay.
they're kind of just making fun of him for writing books about himself.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he has one book that's kind of titled like the retarded boy left behind or something like that, and they were making fun of it, but he wrote that book about himself because he felt like he was left out of the family pretty much. And so he wrote that about himself, and like the entire like that little section is just making fun of him for writing that, which I thought that was kind of stupid, but you know, it is what it is. So but anyway, like these people, like I get they had bad problems in these programs, and dude, I feel so bad about what happened to them. Like that shouldn't have happened in the first place. But now there are people taking it so seriously to the point where they're trying to ruin just normal people's lives who just so happen to have the last name as them. You know, like, sure, I used to work at a program that was completely different, but I wasn't part of any of their WASP programs. I wasn't part of any of that stuff. My sister's been receiving messages.
So it's just anyone with the last name Litchfield.
Literally just
Yeah.
anyone that has the last name Litchfield and used to have Narvin and Rob on their Facebook friends. Like anyone that's even associated with Rob and Narvin pretty much is like they're getting bashed on. And so now what we're seeing is like all of the family is basically just getting like the residual of the initial brunt of it. And so like even the companies received messages saying, "Oh, you guys will never make it with Jackson being part of your company," and blah blah blah. Like it's just kind of crazy. Like
Yeah. It's on like YouTube comments.
Yeah.
And it's on like Instagram and stuff. And like I think some of it's bots because it's like just
Yeah,
the same
it's
thing
like the
spammed
exact
over and over.
same thing,
and then
dude.
they'll like delete themselves after a little while.
Yeah.
It's like
I feel like
not consistent.
Yeah,
Like,
I-
same message, different profile.
I really do feel like it's just some people, like maybe one or two people, just started a bunch of random things and then just started sending out like the same message out to like everyone that's related to Rob and Narvin. But you know, it is what it is now. You know, we're not going to be able to change it really because it came out. You know, and our names are out there now, and I'm on the internet, but I'm not. You know, I'm not too worried about it.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, it's like how can we impact this in a positive way,
Yep.
right? Because we can say, yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't affiliate with that, and we are the good side of the Litchfields, right?
Yeah.
We're there to support people, right? As we've said in this podcast, we're a people company.
Yep.
We support people. We don't abuse in any way. We uplift, right? And I had a real question because you've met all your uncles, all that.
I actually
right?
haven't met Narvin or
You haven't?
Rob.
You haven't
I've
met
never
either
met.
of them?
So when I was really really little, I've been to Narvin's house like maybe 2 or 3 times.
Like the one in Ogden, or
Yeah, but and then Bob, we call him Bob. But Rob, like I've maybe seen him one time when I was like 6, but I've never like officially met him.
the infamous Bob.
Dude, and nobody knows where he
B.O.B..
is either. Like Bob is just like he's just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. He's not active on like social media or in the internet or anything anymore, and he's just kind of disappeared. Like no one's seen or heard of him ever since like years ago, really.
Except for Narvin, right? Because Narvin
believe
has
so.
posted like about it.
Yeah, I believe so, but I don't think anyone else besides Narvin knows like what's going on with Rob even. But Narvin's very active on social media. Like he's always posting. So he's easy to find.
So is he as dumb as like the as the like Netflix show says he is? Because
That's a good
like
question.
they literally like paint him as like the dumbest person in
do.
the world.
They do. I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know him, so I can't say anything.
Okay.
You know, and he did start these programs, which does take some sort of intelligence to actually like create something like that sophisticated, even though it did go wrong.
Well,
you know, but I
it
don't know.
said that he went off the coattails of his brother. Like that's what
Yes.
his son said.
That's
so,
kinda what
so
he
you,
did.
You don't need to necessarily be smart to do that.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, because
But-
the majority, like pretty much 99% of this entire thing was basically set up by Rob, and then Narvin was just kind of part of it, helping out, just set up things pretty much. That's what I know, but yeah, that's kind of how that went. And so now we're just seeing all the residual come down to the rest of the family. And my dad's received messages. I don't think my mom has yet, but yeah, my sister's received messages. I think my brother might be as well. He's on a mission, so he's not able to check on it. But yeah,
He just finds out 2 years later.
like he gets home and he's just like, "What the heck is
Like,
this?
what happened?
What's going on?"
So
Why is there-
how has it actually affected you? Like with having nothing to do with it and this all of a sudden coming out before you even watched the show.
So yeah, it was really strange because like like I said, my wife and I watched the show like in pretty much one night, and then the next day we ended up getting a message from just that random account, and there's no profile on it. Like it's literally just some random profile that just has that message. So my wife and I read it, and we were like, "What the heck is going on here? Like why are people just sending us random messages now, telling us they're gonna destroy our family? Like what? I don't get this." But it was just so strange because it's like this came out and then the messages started coming in and then you guys started getting messages on the company account, and I was like, this could get really bad. And I was kind of worried at first for just a little bit. I was, because like initially I was like, it's not a big deal. Like I was telling my wife, I was like, it's gonna blow over, blah blah blah. And then we started getting the messages, and I was like,
How did your wife react to it at first? Like, was
Yeah.
she pretty scared? Because,
Oh, yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
because she's very, like, superstitious. So I'm like, was she just, like, flipping out on all ends? Or...
Yeah, so basically, like the way that she took it, the way she took it at first, she's like, I don't know if I can be part of this family anymore. I was like, dude, it's fine. Like,
So
this will
she was,
blow
like,
over.
threatening, like...
She was scared, dude. Like she was scared, you know. And I get it. Like for me, I was like, I wish I wasn't part of this family now. Like a part of me was thinking, I was like, man, why is my name Litchfield? Like I should just change my name to Gross Cost. But
Or to Bob.
yeah, dude, I should just change my
Jackson
name
Bob.
to Bob. Jackson Bob. Yeah, no, but I was thinking about it. I was like, man, I mean, this could get really bad, but at the same time, it's like, I think we'll be okay for the most part. Like, because I'm not that person. I'm not the guy who set this up. I'm not like the one who went in there and like abused these kids or anything. So I don't have any problem right now.
I find it very weird that people have so much time that they can watch a whole Netflix documentary in one night and then Google everybody with that last name and send messages off a spam account.
Stop it. Get some help.
Can
Yeah.
you imagine like just being that person that's, oh my gosh, that's crazy to think
Well,
about.
Well, and I think a lot of the times, like, people get so entranced by these things
yeah.
because they see a problem in the world and they want to solve it, but they think the only way to do it is by hating the people,
Yep.
right? Because we get that thing where it's like hate brings forth change sometimes.
Yeah, it's
Right?
It's that tribal thing, dude. Like, because you know, humans were tribal beings. Like, we want to like be part of this thing that's going to make change, or we want to be part of this good community. And the way that the media presents this, and this is not just for this program that came out, but this is for like all things. And you see this in the media, where it's like social media or the news or whatever. You see this thing where it's like, oh, these are the good guys and these are the bad guys. You want to be part of the good guys. But then this side's like, oh, we're the good guys and those are the bad guys. So you need to be part of the good guys. And so it just creates this big divide between people, no matter like where you're at in society. Like it creates a divide, right? But it's just a strange thing how this all turned out. And I think they are going to be making more seasons and more episodes in the future.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they were talking about.
Well, and I think that will be good,
Yeah,
right?
to get more information.
To
at
get
least,
more
yeah.
information, because the person said, I only put out what is fact,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Which is good, right? Getting those facts out there will actually cause change,
Yep.
right? So we're nearing the end of the episode. Any last thoughts or anything that you think, one thing that you like got out of this, or something that you think that you want to change through what the blank, right? Because of all
Yeah.
this.
So, I mean, with me personally,
False.
Cow. 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 Cow.
just false right off the bat. No, so me personally, like, yeah, it can be scary right now because like this is my family. This is like this is affecting my family as a whole, and you know we're not taking it in like a super bad way. Like we're just kind of living our lives and letting the guys who did this kind of deal with it because this is really their thing. And so we're just trying. I'm just trying to take a step back and just look at this from perspective as like, okay, well, I'm just a person that's existing on this planet, and yeah, I have the last name as them, but I don't have anything to do with it, and I don't have any reason to jump into this thing like head first and like try to fight like, oh, my family's good, blah 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 blah. Because, dude, like things happened. Like it was bad stuff that happened, and not much change was made during that time. So it's like I'm not gonna try to defend anybody in this. Like I just want to make sure that I get at least my name cleared up and say, okay, guys, look, I have nothing to do with this thing. I'm just chill out, you know, just chill out. Like, I don't know.
But keep commenting. We like the algorithm.
Yeah.
Please, it helps us.
No, one last thing is I watched this like YouTuber, and she said we're all strangers just breaking the stranger danger rule, and
Yep.
sometimes
I like that.
and sometimes that's for the good, and sometimes that's for the bad.
Yep.
Right? And sometimes we need to stay strangers, and other times we need to be like this and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And break that barrier of stranger.
Yep.
You know.
Yep, I agree.
So
Yeah, and it's definitely helped us break through a little barrier that we were at before. So I mean, this will be good to talk about it more in the future once more stuff comes out. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to see. And so
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was How the
The
Dark
Dark
Truth.
and this was How the Blank. So
Yeah.
peace. No wait.
You
Cut
got
that
it.
out. Cut that out. Hold
No.
on. So wait, no. If you guys want to find us on, let me restart that. Welcome to How the Blank.
If you would like to find Jackson on any social media, his last name is Litchfield.
Yeah, but if you want to follow us, we're okay. So, man, we're botching this.
I'm sorry, Ty.
There's a lot of editing to do.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
If you want to follow us, we're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Spotify.
Yep.
So, all right, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.